Okay, this is the men's 200-meter freestyle heat 2 of the 2025 Toronto Grand Prix. We're looking at lane 2, Mateusz Powalowski. Sorry, Mateusz. We'll have to get that organized later. Here we are. Let's watch the race and then we'll analyze. Nice. Let's bring it back to the start. All right. So we just saw take your marks. Go there. Take your marks. I like that body position that you've got. The back leg is about 90 degrees. Maybe it's a bit smaller, but we can't really tell with this perspective. Regardless, generally good. Frame by frame. First reaction, we're seeing a flexion going on in the upper body and the arms. I'd rather see the first reaction being that back leg firing, okay? Clearly reacted, and yet frames later, we're still basically in the same position. It's taking till now for you to finally get that press through the back leg and the hips to start tracking forwards. If we could cut out that middleman, we're going to see an advantageous start. Pretty good extension, that back leg. I'd like to see a bit more power through the back block. Hands together on entry. Head might be a little low, but honestly looking pretty good. A little bit of a flop on the end there. I'd like to see a bit more of an arc through the air and into the water rather than essentially letting gravity take control around here. Very fast underwater. 4 parts of any race: the dive, the underwater after the dive, underwater after a turn, and any of the swimming. In that order, they go from fastest to slowest, or rather, what's more accurate is the highest potential to lowest potential. Lots of people swim faster than they do their underwaters after the walls, but it's extremely difficult to swim faster than you move through the air after the dive, and likewise, it's very hard to swim faster than it is it's harder to swim faster than your underwater after the dive, unless you don't really have much kicking going on. So that's only 3 kicks? Let's extend that out. Checking out that right wrist. You're getting out into a reach when it's extending, but maybe the same thing happening on your left. But I'd like us to have a straighter arm reaching out, because hooking with our wrist you know, it kind of encourages making sure that we get a good solid hold right from the start. But the reality is that a better hold comes from a high elbow rather than a hooked wrist. So if you're getting a hooked wrist but you're not following through with a high elbow, which is kind of hard to tell, especially in these frames, you know, it's not doing much for you. And bare minimum, it's looking like you're kind of collapsing your hand together. Your hand is bent up. It's not as wide of a surface area as we might want. And it's also encountering the water early, right? We're skimming the water there, pushing the water in the opposite direction that we want to be pushing the water, right? Pushing us backward. Short underwater again, so definitely want to reach for far. This is the thing with sweeping strokes, coming around on a recovery like this. You know, you land nicely there, but you land outside your shoulder there. Land nicely there, probably because you're breathing on your right, but you land outside again. Check out that left arm, might be crossing over. Okay, I would qualify that as enough of something to be concerned about. Like, you don't want to have that much crossover occur. It's not egregious yet, but it's definitely not something where I'm willing to just go, yeah, it's actually okay. You know, we want to have our hands underneath our shoulders. Your right arm might also be experiencing that same effect. Yeah, you're pulling across your body with that right hand there, okay? So if I was going to ask you to hop a fence, you wouldn't cross your hands over each other. You'd grab the rail of the fence, the crossbar, and you'd do a muscle up, in all essence, right? At about shoulder width is where you'd grab it to athletically get over a fence. Any strength, any musculature, any application of force that you have is being weakened because you're following a weaker path underwater. Yeah, we can see that right arm there is going right to crossover. We can see there's a lot of wrist flexion going on too. You're starting with a hooked wrist, kind of getting it almost thumb down, and then a press. I'd rather see a bit more uniform stroke form. But doing pretty well, keeping up with people. This is great, right? I mean, like, these things are hard to implement, but you know, if you can be thinking about this kind of stuff, it's going to yield great results for you, because these are things that happen every single stroke cycle. Play that advantage out over 200 meters, and you're going to see good outcomes. Swimming is all about efficiency, and I'm seeing some key inefficiencies here. So if we can get those in line, all your effort is going to just yield better dividends. Nice finish. Good race.